So Warhammer 2 has a whole bunch of units, some of which are really fucking annoying. You know, those units that cause a resounding ugh when you come across them, or when they do something specific that is most infuriating. This is going to be 5 units that I myself, and I think many of you, are probably annoyed by. Let me know in the comments which units you find most annoying if they're not on this list. And 5 points to you if you can figure out what all the units are before the blurriness goes away. Let us begin. This first unit isn't one that's of a huge threat, but it is really goddamn difficult to catch, and they pester and harass incredibly well. It's the Chameleon Skinks. These little blighters have so much going for them, it gives you really limited ways to deal with them, meaning they'll probably survive most of the battle, being a constant annoyance. The trouble begins with the Chameleon Skinks with their stalk ability, meaning they can't be seen until they get close, and if they run far enough away you'll lose track of them. They also have Vanguard deployment, so they could be goddamn anywhere at the start of the battle. They are also a skirmish unit, so they can fire whilst moving and fire in all directions. To look at their stats though, you wouldn't think much of them. They can't do much in melee, they don't have much armor. However, they do have that missile strength, which is okay, it's not armor piercing. Does have the poison on it though, which is part of what makes them such a big problem. They also have a whopping 40% missile resistance, which means if you try to blast them down with your missile infantry, you're going to be wasting a good bit of ammo, especially as their unit formation is also very spread out. There's a lot of space between them, which means again, if they get shot, a lot of those missiles are going to miss, so you're probably going to be wasting 60 to 70% of a unit's ammo if you try to shoot them with missiles. So shooting them isn't really an option. Maybe you can chase them down with infantry or cavalry. Well, no. Most heavier cavalry will have a speed of around 60 to 70. When that gets poison, you can see 66 speed Empire Knights here get put down to 50 speed from the poison. 48 speed to 50 speed, it's going to take them a while to catch the Chameleon Skinks. And of course, if cavalry can't catch them, infantry isn't going to have any hope either, because of that poison. So that only really leaves light, fast cavalry to try and catch them, but then, because they don't have much armor on, they'll probably get shot up by the Chameleon Skinks and still slowed down a bit. Maybe you could use flying units, although some of those aren't going to be great either. Artillery though, magic, maybe those can be effective, but still it doesn't give you a lot of options for dealing with these little blighters, and very often they'll just run between their friendly units, so even if you do try to chase them down with something, they'll just run through friendly units and you'll never be able to get them. They'll still be blasting poison in your face the whole time. Always there, always poking and prodding you, just trying to annoy you here and there, harassing you and then disappearing off with their stalk. Maybe they'll flank you because they're quite quick on their feet, so they're good at coming up behind front lines. There's just a whole bunch of places they can be a nuisance. What makes them more annoying than most skirmish units is that they can go invisible when they get far enough away, and you can't really shoot them, which is how you deal with most skirmish units, so they're always there being a harassing little problem. Next, a unit that is nigh on invincible, especially in campaign. And yes, it's gonna get me put in the book once again. It's the Longbeards. A unit that will likely demoralize your soul when you see half an army of them charging towards you in campaign. Because you know that means you've got to whittle down 10 units of Longbeards to about 3 dwarfs before they'll rout away. The problem with these little bastards is not only are their base stats already fantastic for helping them stay alive with great armor, a shield, fantastic leadership and melee defense, not to mention a charge defense against large, they also have Encourage, which will give extra leadership to nearby friendly units, which they can get themselves, so if 2 units of Longbeards are stood next to each other, they'll be buffing each other with 8 leadership, meaning that they'll have 88 leadership, and then you couple in any campaign buffs from a Lord, which will probably push them to near 100 leadership, meaning they're basically unbreakable. Dealing with them, we don't have a ton of options. They've got a charge bonus from the front, so we can't charge them with cavalry. They've got a shield, so missiles are a bit of a waste, plus tons of armor. They have their dwarf magic resistance, so that helps them. Debuffs don't have much of an effect if you try to reduce their melee defense. Well, they've probably got campaign buffs for that too. They've probably got 60 or 70 melee defense. Taking off 20 isn't really doing a lot. You could try and blow them up with artillery or send in the elite armor-piercing infantry, although sometimes that isn't even reliable either because of their unbreakableness in campaign at least. The elite enemy infantry will rout before the Longbeards do because they will fight to their last few dwarfs, whereas most other infantry from most other factions simply won't last that long. So having 1 or 2 Longbeards is annoying enough, but having an entire or half an army of them is often just an utter nightmare that isn't any fun to play and is just incredibly tedious. In the book I go. Next, another unit with a forte in harassment, and that is probably more of a multiplayer annoyance if someone brings 2 or 3 of these along. It's the Scourge Runner Chariot for the Dark Elves. Not only is it a slippery and fast chariot that is hard to get damage on, but also is capable of putting out some serious damage. Now, while the chariot itself isn't entirely unique, there are similar chariots like the Tyrannok chariot for the High Elves, but it does have one glaring strength above other similar chariots. Its missile strength is armor piercing and anti-large, meaning it's incredibly versatile and can put serious damage on all kinds of enemies. So no matter whether it's a cavalry, a monster, an infantry, a lord, they can blast away at whatever it is and they can put some serious hurt on it very quickly, especially if there's 2 or 3 of these going around together. The big annoyance of these is that they can put out so much damage very quickly, and there's not a lot you can do about it. They can just run away, they can flank around, they can do whatever the hell they like because they're very fast for a chariot at 84 speed, and anything that does try to chase them off will probably get a fair blasting to the face with that high armor piercing damage. But that's only half of what it brings to the table because it is still a chariot, so they can get into melee and charge units down if they want to, and if you can keep a hold of them you will be able to do some good damage because they have very little melee defense. However, they're very slippery and very fast, so if they want to get out of a fight, they will get out of it quickly and there's not a lot you can do to stop them. Which is, again, in part why they are massively annoying. You can't catch them when they're at range, you can't keep a hold of them when they're in melee, all kinds of problems. They also have really good range, so if they want to snipe at your lord or caster, they can do that. And they can sit out the way comfortably and just hammer some big damage onto your valuable assets. And if you try to run away from them, they can effectively pursue you because of their speed, so they can be difficult to get away from. There's nothing worse than having your lord or key units taken out with big damage that you can't do a lot about. That's always frustrating. They were definitely worse in previous patches, so aren't as bad as they used to be, but can still be pretty damn annoying. The next unit is a fairly simple and not very powerful one by any means, and it's not so much the unit itself that's the problem, but more the way they enter the battlefield, shall we say. It is everybody's favourite undead, the zombies. They're incredibly slow, incredibly brittle, and won't do much damage to you at all. However, they are incredibly disruptive and can be a sticky nuisance. As I say, the problem with zombies isn't so much the zombies themselves, but more the summoning aspect. The fact that they can be brought up anywhere on the map at any time, and with zombies they can be brought up 7 times. 7 units of zombies will spawn out of nowhere and be all over your precious units, disrupting your plans. And there's nothing you can do to stop it, other than not bringing units that will be disrupted by zombies, which is pretty much everything. Missile units are the worst for it. If you bring missiles against the vampire counts, you're asking for trouble, because you're likely going to get zombies spawned up all over you. And even if they're not the spawned up kind, if they're the kind that are brought in the army, they're still goddamn annoying, because they come up and they'll get all up in your front line and they'll just hold things in place that could be doing better jobs elsewhere, but they can't because they got zombies all over them, and the zombies are unbreakable, so they're not going anywhere in a hurry. You got to take them out. Although they're not really doing any damage to you, they're just always there being goddamn annoying. Or maybe you just got off a nice cav charge and you think you're about to escape, and then oh no, zombies are on top of you and now you can't escape because you got to wade through this pile of zombies to be able to get to some freedom. And then a dragon falls on your head and some blood knights appear, and what do you know, everyone's fucking dead. What a nightmare. Which I suppose is appropriate for zombies. But still, god damn it. But hey, any summoned unit is pretty annoying. Even if it's skeletons, same job. It's especially worse with the unbreakable summoned units because you can't get rid of them. There's nothing you can do to stop the summon in the first place other than trying to kill the lord that spawns them. And let's give a special shout out to the Skaven for a similar reason. The Menace Below in campaign, if you've ever fought the Skaven in campaign, I'm sure we all know how annoying the Menace Below is, because it just gets spawned up like every minute. It feels like there's clan rats all over your stuff. They don't take long to get rid of because they do break quite quick, but they're still a pain in the ass. So I guess this point is mostly aimed at summoned units more than zombies specifically, but those unbreakable undead units are a bigger problem. And lastly, if you can't guess what this unit is, then you probably haven't played Total War Warhammer 2 very much. This is a unit that is very hard to damage, can be well healed, and is just all kind of nightmares. It is the Rainbow Pigeon, of course, or Arcane Phoenix, if you want to use the Latin. This big bird has a lot going for it with great stats, great abilities, very fast, just all kinds of problems that it can bring to the battlefield. So stat-wise, it's pretty damn good everywhere. It doesn't have a ton of armor, but does have the physical resistance to make up for it. Got fear and terror, decent leadership, super fast speed as a flying unit of course. This makes it very difficult to keep a hold of and do any damage to. If it flies down into melee, it'll be there as long as it wants to be there. You can't hold it down. Maybe if it gets some monstrous infantry on it or a single large monster, you might be able to, but they're so quick and slippery. Even on foot, they're still very fast, so it's unlikely you're going to get a lot of damage done in melee if it's played and used well, which is kind of true of all Phoenixes really. But with this Phoenix, not only can it heal itself potentially if it's near death with the rebirth ability, but it could also be healed, as there's a lot of that in the High Elves army. If there's a Lariel on the field, that Phoenix will probably be getting a Star of Avalon at some point, meaning you can barely goddamn get any damage on the thing, and if you do, it'll just be healed up by a Lariel or some other kind of healing, or the goddamn rebirth anyway. So the big annoyance of this big bird is that it feels invincible. No matter what you do to it, it still comes back to goddamn life, or just doesn't go anywhere. Your best hope of dealing with it is by shooting it, but if you don't have a lot of missiles or if it's disrupting your missiles, it can be a real problem to get rid of. And then of course it's got its ability as well, the Ember Storm, and Teclis can be on one of these, which makes it even more powerful as well. And there's a Regiment of Renown version, as if that wasn't enough, so this Sparkly Sparrow just has endless amounts of problems it can bring you. And Sigmar help you if there's more than one of them on the battlefield, or maybe a dragon or two as well. Whatever combination it is, having an Arcane Phoenix in there is likely to be incredibly problematic, made even worse if there's a healer on the field as well. So there you go, 5 of the most annoying units in Total War Warhammer 2. Maybe there's some I missed, maybe there's some that you find annoying, maybe you don't find any of these annoying, maybe you love all these units and they're your favourites to fight. Let me know. Thanks for watching people, I hope you've enjoyed this, I will see you in the future.